Maya lay awake in her small dark room, staring at the ceiling as another long night began. She wished sleep would come quickly, but it never did. Every night felt like a battle she had to fight alone. Her mind was quiet on the outside, but inside it was full of noise, full of memories she did not want to remember. She closed her eyes, but the silence made everything worse. It was in the silence that her heart whispered the truth she tried to hide. For many people, nighttime was peaceful, a moment of rest. But for Maya, it was the time her hidden pain woke up. It was the time when her thoughts grew heavier and her chest felt tight. She could pretend all day that she was strong, calm, and happy, but the nights always peeled away her mask. The darkness reminded her of the things she never spoke about. It reminded her of wounds that never fully healed. She turned to one side and hugged her pillow. Her heart was beating a little faster than normal. Sometimes she heard small echoes of her own voice from the past crying, calling out for help, begging someone not to leave. She knew those sounds weren't real, but they felt real enough to hurt her. She had spent years carrying this quiet pain, but she had never told anyone about it. She did not want to be a burden. She did not want people to see her broken. Maya's phone screen glowed softly beside her bed. It was past midnight. She scrolled through old photos, old messages, and old memories, things she should have deleted but couldn't. She didn't know why she kept them. Maybe because deleting them felt like lying. Maybe because those memories were a part of her story, even if they hurt. Every picture reminded her of someone she once trusted deeply. Someone who left her heart wounded without even knowing it. She sighed and placed her phone face down. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she wiped them quickly. She had learned long ago that crying didn't fix anything. But still, her eyes felt heavy and wet every night. Every night she whispered to herself, "Tomorrow will be better." But when tomorrow came, she would put on her brave face again, pretending everything was fine. The room felt colder now. She pulled her blanket closer, hoping it would bring her comfort. But comfort never lasted. Every time she tried to relax, a new memory came back, sharp, painful, and unexpected. She hated that these memories had power over her. She hated that she could not escape them. She wished she could turn off her heart for a moment, just so she could breathe without feeling pain. Sometimes she wondered if anyone could see through her smile. If anyone knew she wasn't really okay. But no one asked her, and she never told. She had mastered the art of hiding her feelings. She laughed at the right moments, gave advice to others, helped people when they were hurting, but in her own private world, she was falling apart, and every night when she closed her eyes, she felt the same thing, a quiet ache inside her chest. A whisper from her past saying, "I'm still here." These were the wounds she never mentioned. These were the wounds that haunted her after dark, but tonight felt a little different. As she lay awake in the dark, she felt something growing inside her, a strange, soft feeling she could not explain. It felt like the beginning of change. Like her heart wanted to speak, even if she wasn't ready to listen yet. And without knowing why, Maya whispered into the empty room, "I just want to feel okay again." It was the first step toward healing. But she didn't know it yet. Morning sunlight slowly entered Maya's room, touching her tired face. She had barely slept, but she forced herself to get up. To the world, she was a strong girl with a calm heart. No one knew that her nights were filled with fear and her mornings were filled with exhaustion. She stood in front of the mirror and gently fixed her hair. Her eyes looked tired, a little swollen, but she smiled anyway. It was the same smile she wore every day, soft, gentle, and practiced at her workplace. Everyone greeted her warmly. They admired her calm nature. They often said things like, "Maya, you're always so positive," or "You make everything feel peaceful." She nodded and smiled, pretending those words didn't hurt her. Because in truth, she felt anything but peaceful inside. She felt like she was carrying a heavy weight no one could see. Maya had learned to hide. her sadness so well that even she sometimes believed her own act. She laughed with her friends, made small jokes, and listened to people when they talked about their problems. She was always the strong one who helped others heal. But no one ever asked her if she needed help. And she never told them. Still, there were moments, small, sudden moments, that broke her smile. Sometimes a simple word reminded her of her past. Sometimes a place or a smell made her heart ache. Sometimes she would hear a laugh that sounded like someone she once knew. In these moments, she felt her world crack a little. But she always fixed her smile again before anyone noticed. During her lunch break, Maya sat outside under a tree. The wind was cool, and the sky was clear. She looked around at people walking, talking, and living their lives. Everyone looked so normal, so relaxed. She wondered if anyone else felt the way she did at night. She wondered if anyone else carried wounds they never mentioned. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. For a moment, peace touched her heart. But then, a memory came sharp and unwelcome. The sound of someone shouting. The moment someone walked away from her without looking back. The feeling of being left alone. Her chest tightened, and her smile slowly faded. She opened her eyes quickly, trying to stop the memory from growing deeper. Maya whispered to herself, "Not now, please." She didn't have the strength to break in the middle of the day. She needed to keep going. When she returned to her desk, one of her co-workers, Arham, noticed her quiet expression. He had always felt there was something behind her smile, something she was hiding. He didn't know what it was, but he could see it in her eyes. He softly asked, "Are you okay?" Maya looked at him, surprised. She wasn't used to people asking her that. Her first instinct was to lie, so she nodded and said, "Yes, I'm fine." She tried to smile, but it was weaker than usual. Arham didn't believe her, but he didn't push her. He simply said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." His voice was calm, simple, and warm. Something about his tone touched Maya's heart. For a moment, she felt seen not as a strong girl, not as a problem solver, but as a human who might be hurting. She looked at him with soft eyes and whispered, "Thank you." It was all she could say. As the day moved on, her smile returned, but something inside her had changed a little. For the first time, someone had noticed her pain. Someone had seen the truth behind her quiet eyes. And even though she wasn't ready to speak, she felt a small spark of comfort in knowing she wasn't completely alone. That night, as she walked home under the streetlights, she touched her chest gently. She still felt the same heavy ache, but now there was something else too, something warm, something hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, the wounds that haunted her every night were waiting for the right person to understand them. That night, Maya returned home feeling a strange mix of calm and confusion. Arham's gentle words kept replaying in her mind. No one had ever offered her a safe space before. No one had ever said, "I'm here," and actually meant it. His kindness touched something fragile inside her, something she had tried to lock away for years. But when the sun set and darkness filled her room, the silence returned. And with it came the memory she hated the most. Maya curled up on her bed, hugging her knees. At first, she tried to think about her day, about the small moment when Arham looked at her with genuine care. But her mind refused to stay in the present. Instead, it pulled her backward, back to the moment her heart first broke. She had once trusted someone deeply. Someone she believed would never hurt her. His name was Amir. He came into her life like a gentle breeze, soft and warm. He made her laugh, made her feel important, made her believe that she mattered. For a girl who always felt invisible, his attention felt like light after a long night. But slowly, everything changed. It started with small things, forgotten promises, canceled plans, cold replies. Maya tried to ignore them. She told herself he was just busy, just stressed, just tired. She began making excuses for him before he even spoke. Because loving him felt safer than losing him. But the truth was cruel. He didn't love her the way she loved him. One evening, when she finally asked him why he had become distant, he didn't look at her. He simply said, "You're too emotional. Too sensitive. You expect too much. I can't do this anymore." Those words cut deeper than anything she had ever felt. Maya remembered standing there, trying not to cry, trying not to fall apart. She begged him to stay, not with loud words, but with trembling silence. But he walked away without turning back. And that moment, that exact moment, became the wound that never healed. She didn't tell anyone about it. She felt embarrassed, foolish, and weak for loving someone who didn't love her. She blamed herself. She thought something was wrong with her heart, her personality, her worth. And from that day on, her nights stopped being peaceful. As Maya lay in bed now, years later, the memory came back with painful clarity. She could still hear Amir's voice. She could still feel the coldness in his tone. She could still feel her own heart breaking like glass. She pressed her palm against her chest, breathing slowly. A tear slipped down her cheek. She whispered to herself, "Why does it still hurt? It's been so long." But she already knew the answer, because she never spoke about it. Because she never healed from it. Because she carried the wound alone. Every night, her mind replayed that moment. The moment her heart learned fear. The moment she decided not to trust too deeply again. Maya closed her eyes, trying to breathe through the ache. She didn't want these memories anymore. She didn't want to feel weak. She didn't want to hurt because of someone who had already forgotten her. But pain doesn't leave just because you tell it to. It stays until you understand it, until you face it, until you let it go. As the night grew darker, Maya whispered a quiet truth she had avoided for years. I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve to be left like that. It was the first time she ever said those words. And even though her voice was soft, the moment felt powerful. For the first time, she didn't blame herself for being hurt. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel angry, not at her heart, but at the person who broke it. And without realizing it, Maya had taken another step toward healing. A step she didn't know she needed. The next morning, Maya woke with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. She felt tired down to her bones. The memories from last night had drained her completely, leaving her quiet and fragile. Still, she forced herself to get ready for work. She looked into the mirror and tried to smile, but the smile didn't rise all the way to her eyes. She reached the office a little later than usual. She kept her head down, hoping no one would notice the sadness she carried. But someone did. Arham. He watched her from a distance as she sat at her desk. Her movements were slower. Her shoulders looked tense. Her eyes looked lost, as if she had been crying all night. He didn't know what happened, but he knew something was wrong. Arham was not the kind of person who asked too many questions, but today, he felt he had to. During lunch break, Maya sat alone under the same tree she always chose. The wind moved softly around her, but she didn't feel its calmness today. She hugged her arms tightly, trying to hold herself together. For a moment, she closed her eyes and wished she could disappear into silence, away from her thoughts. She didn't hear Arham walking toward her. He sat down at a small distance, not too close to make her uncomfortable, not too far to seem careless. His voice was gentle as he said, "Maya, you don't look okay today." Her heart jumped. She wasn't used to being seen. She wasn't used to anyone noticing her pain. She opened her eyes slowly, trying to put on her usual smile, but it didn't form. "I'm fine," she whispered. Arham shook his head slightly. "You don't have to be," he said softly. "It's okay to have bad days." Maya felt something inside her chest shift. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever given her permission to not be okay. She looked at him, surprised, as if she was hearing a language she had never learned. He didn't push her to speak. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to guess what happened. He simply sat with her, offering quiet company. And that silence felt safer than any words she had heard in a long time. After a few minutes, Arham gently placed a warm paper cup beside her. "Tea," he said. "You look like you need something warm today." Maya stared at the cup. It was such a small gesture. Yet her eyes began to burn with tears. Her throat tightened. She looked down, afraid he would see her break. But he already had. He spoke softly again. "You don't have to hide your feelings from me. I'm not here to judge you." Those words struck her heart deeply, because they were the words she had always needed to hear, but never received. A small tear escaped her eye, and she quickly wiped it. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Arham replied. "Just breathe." Maya took a shaky breath. For the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. She felt like someone was sitting beside her, not out of responsibility, but out of genuine care. And that simple presence started to loosen the tightness around her heart dot as they sat under the tree. A quiet understanding formed between them. Arham didn't know her past. He didn't know the wounds she carried. But he could see her pain clearly. And instead of looking away, he stayed. Before they left, he said something that stayed with her. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here, not to fix you, just to listen." That night, when Maya lay in bed, she felt two opposite feelings, fear and comfort. Fear because the wounds still hurt. Comfort because someone had finally noticed them, and for the first time in a long time, she fell asleep not with a memory of pain, but with the memory of kindness. For the next few days, Maya felt something unusual happening inside her. It wasn't happiness, and it wasn't sadness. It was something in between, like the feeling of standing in sunlight after being in the dark too long. Arham's gentle presence had touched her heart in small but powerful ways. He didn't ask questions, yet he understood more than anyone ever had. But healing is never simple. Some nights get heavier before they get lighter. One evening, after a long day at work, Maya sat alone in her room. The sky outside was gray, and soft rain tapped against her window. She hugged her blanket around her shoulders and tried to breathe calmly. But something felt wrong. Her chest felt tight again. Her mind felt stormy. She tried distracting herself listening to music, scrolling through her phone, watching comforting videos, but nothing worked. Her heart kept pulling her back to memories she wanted to forget. Amir's voice came back again, the cold goodbye, the unkind words, the moment he walked away while she silently begged him to stay. She thought she had learned to live with it, but tonight the memory felt sharp again, almost fresh. She whispered to herself, "Not again. Please, not again." But the pain pushed through anyway. Suddenly her hands began to shake. Tears burned in her eyes. She pressed her palms against her face, trying to stop the ache from growing, but it was too strong. No matter how hard she tried to stay strong, her heart refused to stay quiet tonight. Her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Arham. "I hope you're okay. If not, I'm still here." That one simple message broke the last piece of strength she was holding onto. Maya began to cry soft at first, then harder until her whole body shook. She had never let herself cry like this, not even when she was left alone the first time. She had always held her pain inside, believing silence made her stronger. But tonight, her silence shattered. Through her tears, she typed back, "Can you come?" It was the first time she had asked anyone for help. In less than 10 minutes, Arham was at her door. When she opened it, she looked small and fragile, her eyes red, her breathing uneven. She tried to speak, but no words came. Her voice was trapped under her tears. Arham didn't force her to talk. He simply stepped inside and gently held out his arms. For a moment, she hesitated. But then, as if her heart finally gave permission, she stepped forward and collapsed into his chest. The moment she felt his steady heartbeat, she broke down completely. She cried with years of pain. She cried with wounds she never mentioned. She cried with loneliness she carried in silence. Arham held her with quiet strength. He didn't tell her to stop. He didn't tell her to be strong. He let her cry because he knew she needed to release the pain she had buried for too long. When she finally started to breathe again, she whispered through tears, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't cry like this." Arham shook his head gently. "Don't say sorry," he said softly. "You've been holding this inside for too long. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to break. You're human." Those words sank deep into her heart. For years she believed showing pain was weakness. But tonight she realized the truth. Allowing herself to feel was the bravest thing she had ever done. Maya pulled away slightly, wiping her eyes. Her breathing slowed. Her heart felt lighter, still hurting, but lighter. She looked at Arham, and for the first time she didn't hide. "I trusted the wrong person," she whispered. "And it broke me." Arham nodded gently. "But you're still here," he said. "And that means you're stronger than you think." Maya closed her eyes, letting his words settle into her heart. Tonight, she hadn't healed completely, but she had taken her first real breath in years. And for the first time, she began to believe she might one day feel whole again. The morning after her breakdown, Maya woke with tired eyes but a strangely lighter heart. She sat up slowly, feeling the quietness in her room. The pain inside her was still there, but it wasn't as heavy as before. It felt like a deep breath she had finally released after holding it for years. Last night, she cried more than she ever had. But instead of feeling weak, she felt something different. She felt relief that the memory of Arham holding her stayed in her mind. His calm voice, his steady presence, the way he didn't judge her, those moments wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel ashamed of her pain. She felt understood. When she reached the office, she saw Arham near the entrance. He didn't rush to her. He didn't overwhelm her with questions. He simply looked at her with gentle eyes, asking silently if she was okay. Maya nodded lightly. It was a small nod, but it was real. Throughout the day, she noticed something new inside herself. She felt less afraid, less guarded, less alone. The walls she built around her heart were still there, but they had small cracks where light finally started to enter. At lunchtime, Maya sat under the same tree, waiting for the sadness to pull her down like it always did. But surprisingly, it didn't. Instead, she felt calm. The wind felt softer, the sun felt warmer, and her heart felt quiet in a way she wasn't used to. Arham joined her a few minutes later, sitting beside her just like before. They didn't speak for a while. They simply shared the silence, and for once, silence didn't hurt her. It felt gentle. After a moment, Maya whispered, "Thank you for last night." Arham looked at her with kindness. "You don't have to thank me," he said softly. "I'm just glad you didn't go through it alone." His words touched her deeply. She lowered her eyes, feeling something warm spread across her chest. For years, she had believed that she had no choice but to fight alone. She believed her feelings were a burden. She believed asking for help made her weak. But last night proved her wrong. As the day passed, Maya noticed small changes in herself. When a memory appeared, it didn't attack her the same way. Her heart still hurt, but the pain didn't drown her anymore. It felt manageable, like something she could slowly understand instead of something that controlled her. That evening, when she went home, she didn't feel scared of the night. For the first time in months, she turned off her lights and sat quietly in the dark. Her heart felt steady. Her mind wasn't racing. She wasn't afraid of breaking again. She sat beside her window and watched the sky grow darker. She whispered to herself, "I'm healing. Aren't I?" It felt strange to say, but also beautiful. Healing was slow, but she could finally feel it starting. Later, she picked up her phone and typed a message to Arham. "Thank you for staying. It meant more than you know." A moment later, he replied, "You don't owe me anything. I'm proud of you." Healing is not easy, but you're doing it. She smiled softly, her heart warming at his words. Maya leaned back, letting her body relax. For the first time in years, she felt like she had a chance to rebuild herself, a chance to breathe again, a chance to believe she deserved peace. Her wounds were still there, but they weren't haunting her the same way. They were slowly, gently beginning to heal, and she was beginning to understand something important. Healing doesn't start when the pain ends. Healing starts when you stop hiding from it. Tonight, as she closed her eyes, she didn't feel fear. She felt hope. Days passed, and every day felt like a small step toward a lighter heart. Maya was not suddenly healed, and she knew her pain would not disappear overnight. But something had changed inside her, something steady, warm, and real. She no longer felt like she was drowning every night. She no longer felt alone in her silent battles. Each morning, she woke with a softer heart and a clearer mind. One evening, as she walked home after work, she noticed the sky. It was painted with soft pink clouds, fading slowly into gold. For years, she had walked under the same sky without ever looking up. She was always lost in her thoughts, always carrying a heavy mind. But today, she stopped and stared at the beauty above her. She realized she hadn't done that in a long time. When she reached home, she made tea and sat by the window, the place where she once sat trembling with pain. The night had always been her enemy, a time when her wounds became louder than her thoughts. But tonight felt different. The darkness didn't scare her. The silence didn't feel empty. Her heart didn't feel like it was breaking. Instead, she felt calm. She closed her eyes and took a slow breath. The memories of her past still existed, but they no longer crushed her. They were just memories now, not chains. They didn't define her anymore. She finally understood something she never believed before. Pain does not disappear when you ignore it. It disappears when you face it. And she had done exactly that. Her phone buzzed. It was Arham. "Are you home?" "Yes," she replied. "Look outside your window." Confused, Maya opened her window and leaned out slightly. Down on the street, Arham stood under a streetlight, holding 2 cups of tea. When he saw her, he raised one cup with a soft smile. Maya felt something warm spread across her heart. She quickly went downstairs, and when she stepped outside, the cool air touched her face gently. Arham handed her the cup and said, "Thought you might want company tonight." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "I'm not afraid of the night anymore," she said quietly. Arham smiled. "I know. But healing doesn't mean you have to do everything alone." They walked slowly to a nearby bench. The streetlights glowed softly, and the night felt peaceful, not haunting. As they sat side by side, Maya felt something she had not felt in years: safety. For a while, they talked about simple things: the weather, work, random moments from their week. It felt normal, easy, comforting. Then, after a gentle pause, Maya spoke the truth she once believed she would never say. "I thought I lost myself," she whispered. "I thought I would always feel broken." Arham looked at her with steady eyes. "You didn't lose yourself. You just carried too much alone." Maya took a deep breath. "I still have scars." "Scars are proof you survived," Arham said softly. "Not proof you're weak." His words touched the deepest part of her heart. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from gratitude. For the first time ever, she felt proud of herself. Proud that she endured. Proud that she kept going even when the nights were heavy. Proud that she finally allowed herself to feel, to break, and to heal. When she looked up at the sky again, a single star shined brightly. She smiled. Slowly, gently she whispered, "I'm finally okay." That night, Maya returned home and sat on her bed. She no longer feared the darkness. She no longer avoided her thoughts. She no longer felt haunted by the wounds she never mentioned. She had faced them. She had survived them, and now she had peace. a peace she thought she would never feel again.